All right, let's try this again. Right, so that was my wife calling. I don't know. I had to interrupt the stream. Let's see if it picks up where I left off. But anyway, the problem is going to be that it's not enough for individuals or what do they call them? Nuclear families, right? Husband, wife, children, or the equivalent thereof, to take care of themselves during a large-scale disaster. You're going to be worried about your grandparents, your aunt and uncle, other people, even just family friends who have been you're really close to, people you went to school with, people that you in your neighborhood that you grew up with, those kinds of things. And you're going to wonder how they're doing. You're going to want to get on the phone. You're going to want to see how they are, share advice and where you're going to be, how can I contact you. And these are very, very complicated problems to try and solve. And again, this is the in the topic of massive societal change. The way when civilization collapses, it's not going to be enough that you have 50 MREs, 10 gallons of water, and a shotgun. You're very quickly going to recognize that there's a lot of people in your life that you wish were close. And it's going to be massive societal change to change the way we do things now with family members and just close friends, important people, right? We all have important people in our lives. And I'll just cut to the chase. It is it's beyond possible, it's likely that people will lose track of their families, period. Unless someone is living actually in your current town and no more than a mile away, you're not going to know what's happening to them. You're just not. Period. That's it. And even if you knew, even if you got a phone call that says the floodwaters are rising and the house is about to wash away and we don't know what to do, and then the line goes dead, if they're 2 states away, what can you do? You can't do anything for them. Not over the phone. And you can call the sheriff in that county and say, my grandparents are stuck in their house. They don't know how to get out. They're old. They're feeble. Grandpa's Alzheimer's, and you're not going to be able to contact the sheriff because there's 100,000 other people trying to contact the sheriff's department, trying to contact the EMTs, trying to contact the fire department. They're calling in from out of state, trying to contact the police department, trying to do wellness checks. I mean, what do you think? What are you thinking is going to happen? We have this normalcy bias that 911 will handle everything. You just do a wellness check. You just send the sheriff's deputy out, and they'll just do a wellness check, and it'll be fine. What are you thinking? That is not going to be a thing. Everybody thinks that the cell phones are going to work. Everyone thinks that the switching networks aren't going to be overwhelmed. Everyone thinks that everyone's going to have power, electrical power. That the power isn't the first thing that goes out during a large-scale disaster. And everyone thinks that the police will be sitting there waiting, staring at the phone, waiting for them to call. Clip, yes, what can I help you with? Anything at all. Just right now, we'll do it. That's how people think. That's the normalcy bias. That you call 911 and there's a pleasant person who can handle anything, even you screaming at them in panic, and it'll be all fine. And that's just not going to be the case. And even if you happen to call the sheriff in some other state and they say, yeah, well, give us their name and their address and we'll look in on them. They'll look in on them 4 days later. Because even though they didn't tell you this, because they wouldn't, why would they? They just want you to hang up on the phone. They want you to get off the phone. They don't want an argument with you about their priorities and how they're overwhelmed. They're just going to tell you, okay, thank you for the information. We'll do our best we can. Click. That's it. And then they pick up the phone and talk to the next screaming, panicked, hyperventilating caller who's asking probably the exact same question. And they take exactly the same information and click, pick it up, same screaming, hyperventilating caller. Check in on my grandparents. Check in on my aunt and uncle. Check in on my friend from elementary school, No one's thinking about this. No one's thinking about this. Nobody. We need massive societal change. We need it in a lot of things, but one thing you could do, I could do, is bring them home. Could do that. A lot of people my age, late 60s, late 50s, have empty rooms, right? The kids are in college now, or they're adults now, and they've moved out and they have their own home. And maybe they're married, have their own family, and you got an extra room. You could move someone in there. You could. You could. I mean, you wouldn't want to, because that person you're thinking about is difficult, and always yelling and wanting things and smokes too much, and they smell bad, and they curse around the kids, and maybe you don't want that person there, but are you okay with them floating down the river without anybody to try and pull them out of the river? Because that's what's going to happen. The tree will fall in, and there won't be anybody there to help them out of the rubble, and they'll die. It could have been saved, but they won't be saved because no one can save them except you, and you're 8 states away. You're living on the West Coast, and they're in the Midwest, and that's it, or vice versa. So, this is in our wheelhouse as individuals to implement these changes. But it has to be done at scale for it to really work to save the country. And that's why it comes under the rubric of massive societal change. Are we going to do that? Well, you could. I could. Our family members could reach out to us and say, hey, I don't like living alone. Your father died. I'm really alone now, and it's hard for me to manage the house. I think what I would like is to move in with you and your wife and family and sell this property, and I promise I won't be a problem, and I can try to help with things. And, they might call you and ask for help. Change my situation. That's massive societal change. That is not in our programming as consumers, as retirees, as workers, as drones, driving to work every day on the same freeway, taking the same lane, taking the same exit. Nothing about that life. Going to the Target, going to the Trader Joe's, going down the same aisle, picking the same things off the same shelves in the same aisle into the same cart. And, maybe the price is a little bit different because the price of everything keeps going up, right? But, we have our patterns. We don't think about how we may have our responsibilities. And just getting people just to sit back and say, wait, responsibilities? Wait, I have responsibilities. Just that right there. That step, just opening the door a little bit. Just cracking the door open and inspecting what's on the other side of, do I have any responsibilities? Opening the door. Nobody can do that. We're not trained to do that. The propaganda has always been what it is now. And your whole life, my whole life, all of our whole life, my kids, they're patterning on the mass delusion that is consumerism, personal pleasure, profits, personal growth, self-actualization. There's no we in any of that. There's only me. And I don't mean to say all that to be critical and say, people are selfish. I'm not calling it that. I'm calling it brainwashing. Because when the chips really are down and we're all in the same responsibility of, taking care of our families, because that is our responsibility. Maybe. Is it? Possibly. Maybe not. Are we going to open that door? That any of us have responsibilities for other people? Are we going to open that door? We could. We could just say, oh, yeah, I guess I do. Or we won't. And if we don't, it's because of years and years of indoctrination. It's what it is. It's brainwashing. That you don't, that's not your responsibility. It's the responsibility of the 911 system and the police and the first responders and the emergency rooms and the EMTs. And it's their responsibility. And of course, everyone likes it that way. It works. You don't have to deal with your uncle who smokes too much and swears and, grandma and grandpa, and grandpa's got Alzheimer's, and grandma's arthritic, and he's why bother? They've got insurance, they've got Medicaid, they've got their Social Security. You don't have any responsibility. Maybe we do. I find that it's not easy to admit to yourself and to convince others that you have any responsibility. Nobody wants that. Nobody wants that. Nobody wants to be told what to do. Nobody wants to ask what they should do or to ask for help. And I don't even think we're trained to not ask for help because, it's what? Demoralizing or something, humiliating, right? You have to ask for help. I mean, it should be an easy thing to do. Asking for help and saying, I just can't do it by myself anymore. Or this isn't working out for me, or I need my family around me. That shouldn't be a problem. And I don't think anyone ever thinks I'm humiliating myself. I think they just don't have the thought of reaching out because we've been all propagandized. And it's brainwashing. It's been going on for generations. And if you go to the old countries, right? Old Italy, Greece, France, maybe Germany, the Netherlands, Norway, Scandinavia, you're going to find that people live differently. And so I'm really talking to a American audience when I say we just don't have that in our DNA anymore. So for Americans to try and do the right thing for their seniors, for the grandkids, for the children, your own biological children that have grandkids, for the single moms in the family, for the troubled teenagers, we just can't do it. So it's going to be a form of massive societal change. This is something that we Americans, maybe other countries as well, are just going to have a talk about. We're just going to have to sit down and either as families or maybe even as a nation, just say, look, people, I don't know how to say this, so I guess I'm just going to come out and say it. You're going to have to look after each other. I mean, that's the conversation. The president can have that conversation. The first lady, or the first gentleman, or whatever, can have that conversation with Americans. Say, look, you're going to care. You're going to be disturbed when you find out that no one was there to save your grandparents or your own parents who are now elderly, or that sister of yours who is a single mom and has 2 kids and is kind of harassed and can't keep up with things and doesn't have anyone to help her, and in the end she couldn't be helped because there was nobody there for her. And you called 911 and you couldn't reach your sister and no one showed up, and pretty soon you find out there's no record of your sister. She's gone. And her little kids too. What happened to them? I don't know. There was a flood, there was a tornado, there was a hurricane, there was a something. There was starvation, there was a big riot, there was an epidemic. And what happened? We'll never know. You may never know. And there you are, in the aftermath of some huge cataclysm, and you don't know what happened. And how are you going to feel about that? Well, dealing with that, you have to do that ahead of time. I mean, I don't mean weeks, although weeks would be better than nothing. You could buy a plane ticket for your sister and her 2 kids and get them moved in with you, or get them moved into temporary housing in your backyard or something, an ADU or whatever, the patio, anything ahead of a storm that is coming, or ahead of a disaster, or ahead of the stores running out of food and empty shelves, and you could just do something a week or 2 ahead of time and try and just get ahead of it. You could do that, or you could, drop everything now, make a phone call, have a conversation, be pleasant, and say, look, here's why I really called. I'm worried about you. Things are going sideways. There's talk about food shortages and people are losing their jobs, and I know that you're at risk of losing a job too. Your part of the country isn't real stable right now, and I've just been thinking a lot about you, and I would worry less about you if you were living here with us. And, then your sister, who has no husband and has 2 kids, could then say, wow, that's really a kind offer, because, I've been really stressing out about it. And then it's done, right? The cost of a plane ticket or a train ticket or a bus ticket, or maybe drive across the country in your car or whatever, and you pick them up and you bring them in, and you've dodged a bullet. One less thing to worry about. And then if the shelves really do empty and the power really does become sketchy, and all of a sudden, the cell phone networks don't work, but 6 hours out of the day, and There's, police in riot gear standing around in the intersections of your city, and you're wondering what's going on. But you've got your family nearby. You've got your sister and her 2 kids, and you can talk to her, and she can, she panics and she doesn't know what to do, and as a family you can talk about things. That would be nice. But that is massive societal change. We're not ready for that. Nobody's ready for that. Nobody, not one person in the United States of America, 325 million people, not one person is prepared to make that phone call. Not one. Nobody. Are you kidding? Nobody is willing to make that phone call. They're not going to do it. They won't do it. But calamity, and it comes from all directions, and with all the global heating going on, it's going to come from the sky a lot of the time, or from the ocean via the sky. And it's just going to hit you out of the blue. You'll have a couple of days warning, a week or 2, and then the catastrophic floods. And no one takes that seriously either. That's another level of massive societal change. Wake the fuck up, people. Start getting data driven. Just start figuring this out, because it is coming fast and hard and brutal. And it's physics, and physics doesn't give a shit about any of us. And we're going to have to start caring about each other. Because what's going to get in the way of calling the sheriff and having a wellness check on your divorced sister with her 2 kids? Physics. Physics will get in the way of that. The phone lines will be down. There'll be no electricity in her town, or even in your town. And the sheriff will have 400 other wellness checks they're doing, because reasons. Of course, everyone panics at the same time, and they'll be running around trying to do all these checks and trying to stop all the looting and everything else. Plus, they got their own families to take care of. And what makes you think it's going to work? It's not going to work. Physics will put an end to all of it. Physics will just put an end to it. It's not even like a technological failure. It's just the laws of physics say you can't do this anymore. And trust me, you don't want to be in the business of fighting the laws of physics. You don't want to be in the wrong side of that struggle. Because if you are, you're going to lose. Every time. Every single fucking time that you go up against the laws of physics, you're going to lose. Badly. Very badly. You're going to lose. I don't know. Of course, I have nothing but doubts that any of us are going to turn any corner of any significance into any of these looming disasters. It's just going to come at us. It's going to chip away at us. And then one day the whole thing is going to fall apart. And we're all going to be left standing there, gawping. What just happened? Well, it didn't just happen. You just weren't paying attention. I don't know when the axe is going to drop on us. Some places the axe has fallen already. Some places are already completely screwed up. They have no future in this country. No future. Southern California has no future, really. Out beyond about 5 years, nothing. Anything below Sacramento, really, is lost. Completely lost already. Lost. Those people are finished. They don't know that. No one's telling them that. I'm not going to tell them that. I'll say it, but I'm not going to go down and tell them that. I'm not going to stand on the corner and shout, hey, you people need to get out of here. But they need to get out of there. And they're not going to. And everyone's going to be surprised. And there'll be those friends and family that lived in Southern California, and then they're just going to vanish. That's that. That's how it is, folks. That's how it is. People are just going to vanish. And you'll be left wondering, the way people always are, should I have done something? Could I have done something? What could I have done? I could have called them. I could have said something. I could have gone down there and talked to them. I could have invited them up here. I could have paid for their bus ticket. Coulda, woulda, shoulda. Didn't. Nobody will. Because it's massive societal change, and we're not doing it. We're not going to do it. The key element to massive societal change is we need leadership, and we don't have any, and we're not doing it. You could. I could. We could decide to do it together, but we're not going to. And that's a grim assessment, but that's my assessment based on data, watching people, how they respond to things. So, prove me wrong. Figure it out. So this is the 5th in a series. I'll probably come back with another one. I'll probably read some chapters out of my novel. I'll probably do that tonight. So if you want more of this kind of content and you want to hear anything from my novel, then subscribe and like and come back, and we'll see what happens on that score, okay? I'll talk to you then.